Hey, Joe here. Welcome back. If you've not jumped on the bandwagon and downloaded these tracks, you can do so for free over at homestudiocorner.com/MT. This is Mixed Together Season 3. In the last video, I did my static mix, and we have it recorded down here. The beauty of the way that I do recording my mixes down to this track is if I hit play right now, we're actually listening to my mix. We're not listening to this recording. So for example, we hit play, and we're soloing along. We're playing the whole thing. Now, if I want to solo the guitar, we just hear the guitar because I'm not actually hearing this mix. I'm hearing what's coming through this track because that input monitoring button is enabled. If I turn that off, now we're listening to the recorded mix. It's a really quick and easy way, and there's actually a keyboard shortcut, the letter U, lets me turn that on and off. So if I do this mix for another hour and want to hear, okay, how does this compare to the raw static mix, the gut mix that I started with? I can quickly come down here and literally just select this track and go boop, 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 and I can quickly A-B back and forth and kind of hear my progress. And then when we get mix 1 done and then mix 2, we can go back and forth and quickly listen without having to go pull up our Finder and find the actual files. It'll be right there waiting for us. I love, love, love that approach. Now, one thing you may have noticed at the end of the last video, just in the final seconds of the video, I inserted a marker and I typed the word fix. And as soon as that video stopped, I typed in fix drums. There's a spot in here just towards the end that distracted me. And while the job as a mix engineer isn't to edit, if someone hires you to mix and they expect you to go through and do a ton of editing, that is not what you technically are being hired for. It's up to you to make that clear. But occasionally when I mix something, if there's just an obvious problem or something that I can't listen to, or I don't want to listen to, or I know it would make a huge impact if I fixed it, a lot of times I will go in and fix it. So I'm going to show you some quick drum editing. There's kind of 2 spots that stood out to me. I'm not going to listen to the entire drum kit and comb through it with a fine-tooth comb. But there were 2 spots that when I listened to the entire mix, they stood out to me, so I want to fix those. The first is just a kick drum hit somewhere around here. Let's take a listen. Oh, sorry, so my mic was muted. Right here where the marker is where the problem happens. So the kick is going for this pattern of dun 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 dun, but he just gets a little behind the beat, which I totally understand. I'm always behind the beat when I play guitar. So here it is. So this beat right here is just a little behind. Now, I mentioned in the first video, I don't have the tempo for the song. I could try to map it out and set up a grid. I'm just gonna go old school and do this visually. Let's assume they weren't recorded to a click. That may actually be the case. I literally don't know. Let's just go in and fix it. So the first thing we're gonna do when you're editing drums is to select all the drums, not the percussion. I don't care about those right now. But the drums themselves, everything that was recorded at once, select them and group them. So I use Command G in Studio One to group them together. Now, whatever I edit on one will edit across all of them. So if I cut here and move this over, that happens to, oops, dragged it down too. That happens to all the tracks. That's important because we want to maintain the phase relationship between everything. If I move the kick drum over on this track, well then this track won't be lined up. And then all the kick drum hits that were recorded through the overheads and the room mics and everything else will also not be lined up. So we want to keep everything the same. So while this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 11 or 12, I didn't even count right. 11 or 12 tracks, we're going to treat it as one. Now we may zoom in and only look at one, but anything I do to one, because they are grouped, is happening to all of them. So let's diagnose the problem and then let's solve it. Let's go back a little bit more. So it's really this hit and this one. They just get a little off. So if a steady pulse is dun, 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 you can hear where it leaves that. And we're right back after that. So let's determine where the hit should be. So this is one problem. We're going to cut it just before the kick hit. And then this one is also problematic. I'm guessing that snare as well. I'm not sure yet. But it's all happening in this area. So I'm going to assume this snare hit is good. We're just messing with these hits in this area. Did not expect to be doing this in this video series. That's what's so fun about Mixed Together. All right. Where's a downbeat? I'm totally lost now. Okay, right? This is the downbeat here. Downbeat. Get down to the beat of the chopper. Okay, so it needs to go dun 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 dun. The problem, you could go in and just steal a previous measure, but he's hitting some cymbal crashes that I don't know if they match up. Let's just listen all the way through just to see. Yeah, when he goes for he switches from playing the toms to playing the cymbal crashes. I'm guessing that's what messed up his timing. He's not as comfortable with that, which is totally fine. I'm not dogging the drummer at all. I have mad respect that any drummer that can keep a beat for anything more than a measure, because I can't do that. So let's figure out where the beat needs to happen. Here's our downbeat. So it sounds like the beat comes in early. So I'm just going to move it over. Now, cool thing in Studio One, I can actually do this. That moves the underlying audio without actually moving the end point. And I can press X to make a crossfade there. Need to move the crossfade over a little bit. Let's go back to our downbeat. I'm going to mute this out for a second, and I'm going to just visually kind of mark the spot where I think I'm going to hit it. So there's a keyboard shortcut, Shift Y. I'm going to use that keyboard shortcut to mark the spot where I think the kick drum hit should be. So let's go. I'm going to need more. So I don't know if I'm right, but okay, maybe it was in the right spot all along. Let's get this. So maybe it was closer to the beat than I thought. See, this is where I can't, without a grid, I honestly get a little bit lost. So let me just listen again. It still feels a little, maybe it's a little slow. So let's move it back a little bit. I have a hard time telling if it's in front or behind the beat sometimes. No, maybe it's right. Okay. Undo, 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 undo. Let's get that snare right. The snare is a little in front of the beat. Dun, 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 dun. And I still think that drum beat needs to come a little bit later. I'm just going to move them around until they sound right. I told you this might get awkward. Yeah, that feels a little bit better. Kick is still a little early. Yeah, that feels better. All right, let's see how that whole thing sounds. Okay, now the kick drums still feel a little behind, so let's bring them back. Still a little slow. Let's move it back a little more. Yeah, that feels better. And just move this over so there's no bump in the crossfade. It's not perfect. You can maybe hear the edit a little bit, but you totally won't hear it in the whole mix. And it sounds better than the out of time version that was there before. Really quickly, let me duplicate this layer. Oh, I hate it when it does that. Collapse all tracks. Okay, so now we're looking at layer 2. Let me just delete all this, and we can go back and forth and compare the original with the fixed. So we'll rename original, and this one we'll call fix. So these are just layers underneath the track. You can use this for takes, also for just fixes that you make. See how I move those beats? Watch them move. You can see them now. Let me zoom in a little bit more. And then when I switch to the original, the kick was early. The first kick was early. The last kick was late. And now they've all been sliced up and fixed real nice. So let's listen to the difference. See if you can hear a difference here. I'll play the original, and then I'll switch to the fixed one, and then back to the original, then back to the fixed, okay? Right? It makes a big difference. And then in the bigger grand scheme of things, with everybody playing, you're not the only one. Yeah, so much better than it was before, like this. That kick, it was that second kick right here that was way behind the beat that just kind of moved, like knocked me out of my chair, if that makes sense, to where I couldn't. I was like, oh, I was rocking in the song, and that totally distracted me. That's all I'm after here doing editing during mixing. I don't like to edit a lot, but when I do, I don't always edit, but when I do, I want it to be for stuff that bothers me in the entire mix. There was one other spot I want to listen to. I already forgot where it was. Let's find it real quick. You're not the only one. This tambourine hit right before the part we just edited. See this tambourine? Listen to it against. Let me move it up next to the snare. You can see how it's not hitting with the snare. All right, I'll change colors. The pink one is the one in question. Supposed to hit with the snare. Now, could be the drums were in early, could be this was perfectly in time. Doesn't matter, they're not hitting together. So the solution is to chop them up and just slide it over. And then I hit X for a quick crossfade. And maybe we don't include that. Nope, that sounds a little out of beat. Let me, sorry, I should be doing this with just the drums. Make your life a little easier. Versus the original. They all just kind of lay on top of each other, and it feels super messy. And it was another one of those things that just distracted me as I was listening. Just one hit, totally fine. And then maybe this one here was a little early. Yeah, it just it's not as distracting there. And that's it. Are there other tambourine hits that might be a little off the beat? Yeah, I don't care about those. It's just the ones that come through and bother me. If I hear more down the road, I will absolutely go fix those as well. Oh, my colors. Yeah, everything's back to the right color. But now we have taken just a few minutes to do a couple of quick things that actually will make this, being like the most epic part, the ending to the song. We want them to sound good. Now they sound wonderful. Let's take a listen here. Love that. So if you didn't hear that from the beginning when I was playing through it, or when you go download the tracks and go listen, it's just these last couple of measures before the end of the song. Just listen to it. Listen to the whole mix, your static mix, then solo the drums and listen to those and see if you hear those timing differences. If you don't, that's fine. It would be a good skill to develop, to learn to hear those things, to hear when things aren't hitting on the beat. That could never be a bad thing to get better at hearing that stuff. Just like getting good at hearing an out-of-tune guitar can help you tell the guitar player, hey, before we record that, let's tune that guitar again. It's always good to have. So knowing how to hear timing issues is super helpful as well. So you can go in and use just really simple. I didn't use any time flexing, pitch shifting, crazy stuff here. I just used normal editing, just sliding some audio around, putting some crossfades in place. Boink. I forgot that one. I forgot to crossfade that one. Naughty boy. And that's it. Just super, super simple editing stuff in just 2 quick spots made this last part of the song so much better. Man, I did not expect to be doing this as a part of this video series, but that's what you get with Mixed Together. I show you the real, behind the scenes, down and dirty, awkward clicking and dragging around until we find the right beat. That's how mixing works. If you haven't downloaded your tracks yet, you need to do it now. homestudiocorner.com/MT. They are 100% free. Download them, load them into your session, mix along with me. We'll have a lot of fun together. All right, see you in the next one.